What are the words that can describe the sea? The sea is blue, white, black. Maxim Gorky, a famous Russian writer, once said, "The sea was laughing." Anton Chekhov, another outstanding Russian author, remarked, "It is enough to write only one word, the sea." When the name of Alexander Marinesco turns up, everyone who loves history, who is interested in it, who cherishes the memory of the fatherland, and in the first place every sailor and submariner, recalls the day of the 30th of January, 1945. Wilhelm Gustloff liner, a symbol of Nazism, the pride of the Third Reich, sank to the bottom of the Baltic. It was the giant with a displacement of over 25,000 tons, 298 meters in length, with heatless apartments, a swimming pool and a church on board. Its few distance allowed to reach Japan from Germany. The ship was overcrowded with people. Altogether, there were over 7,000 people, including 3,700 submariners, 100 commanding officers, several women battalions, the top military and civilian officials of the Reich. The invulnerable, perfectly escorted 19-decked armed giant sank beneath the waves within an hour, after being hit by only 3 torpedoes fired from S-13 submarine, after Marinesco had commanded to fire. That was the starting point for the exhausting, excruciating way to glory, the way that lasted 45 years. That was the example of exceptional boldness and bravery, impressive even today. 2 hours of chasing the enemy in the surface position that is in sight of the Nazi. When it was requested from the enemy's liner, "Who are you?" the Russian guys answered some kind of gibberish. While the Germans were clearing up what was going on, the Russian torpedoes hit the target, and after that, the immediate urgent immersion. And mind you, that one of the torpedoes had failed to leave the torpedo tube, and only the courage and skills of the torpedo men allowed to prevent the disaster. They simply pulled the torpedo back, right into the submarine. And besides, notice that 240 depth bombs missed them. Was it a miracle only? Not only a miracle. First of all, they owed their lives to their own professionalism. I was born on the 15th of January, 1913, in the city of Odessa. My father, Ion Marinesco, was an escaped sailor from Romania. My mother's name was Tatiana and she was from Ukraine. My father was threatened with the death penalty for having beaten an officer, and he escaped to the Russian Empire. Having married a Ukrainian woman, he changed the last letter of his surname from U to O, and his Romanian first name, Ion, was turned into the Russian Ivan. Marinesco would say in jest that he had been a sailor since he could remember. The passengers of the steamers at the pier threw coins into the sea, wishing to come back, and the boys would dive into the sea to get them in the underwater battles. Alexander Marinesco was sure to take part in those battles. He was always the life and soul of the party. He dived out of the water, showed everybody the coin, and put it in the corner of his jaw. Since his childhood, he knew how to keep his word, stand for himself, and stick together. The main thing about him was his desire to explore the unknown. He got his first sailing experience in Odessa Yacht Club. The sea tempted him to be a captain. He worked as a lifeguard at the rescue station. Being a boy, he saved 2 persons. The sharp lad, whose surname stems just from the word marine, was noticed and enrolled in the maritime school without examinations. A year and a half later, he was transferred to the Nautical College of Technical Fleet in Odessa. After graduation, 20-year-old Marinesco became the second mate at the Krasny Flot steamship. the same year witnessed his move into Leningrad. He's been selected for the submarine fleet course, his first own home, where he lived with his wife Nina and daughter Lara, and his first service on Shatriot 6 submarine. Service on any submarine is far from being easy. Even a tank is much cozier. Any negligence is a disaster. Any mistake is a wreck. Under these severe conditions, Marinesco learned the basics of his new marine profession hard and persistently. In November 1937, he was sent to high command courses. And suddenly, out of the blue, it was ordered to dismiss him from the fleet. Why? Because of his family. His father, a Romanian, had been in the territory occupied by the White Russians. It was such a disaster. They even rejected his application for the merchant fleet. However, being a proud man, he didn't file any petition asking to look into his situation carefully. It might have been that period when never-ceasing sadness settled in his eyes and the first symptoms of his future deviation from the official path manifested themselves. And all of a sudden, a new order was issued to return him to high command courses. Marinesco graduated from them successfully, gaining the rank of first lieutenant, and along with the rank, he got M96 submarine under his command. His urgent immersion took 19.5 seconds, against standard 35 seconds. That was an absolute record for submarine M96. It is the members of Marinesco's crew whom we owe that record. Later, people would say that the Wilhelm Gustloff sinking was just by chance. But we should not forget that as early as in August 1942, Marinesco's crew scuppered the enemy's ship with a displacement of 7,000 tons, and so to speak, acting out of the box, Marinesco intuitively guided the submarine, but rather than going to the home port of Kronstadt, he went in the opposite direction, to the port of Paldiski in Estonia, thus avoiding big troubles for his submarine. The thing is that the Baltic Sea, having been mined, was extremely dangerous for submarines. As early as by the end of April 1943, Germans had netted 2 lines of floating mines from the southern to the northern coast of the Gulf of Finland and blocked it entirely. Moreover, the Nazis had set 8,500 mines, and 120 Hitler's anti-submarine ships and boats were constantly seeking for the Russian submarines. Sailors used to joke, it is not the sea, but the dumpling soup. They repaired the submarine on the go during almost 4 days maneuvering in the area of the enemy base. At the same time, they managed to gather information about the enemy patrols, the channel course, as well as the ships and vessels passing by. On the 13th of November 1942, Popkov, the chairman of the Leningrad City Council, awarded the Order of Lenin to Marinesco. Various orders and medals were also awarded to the members of the crew. On the 19th of April 1943, Marinesco was appointed commander of S-13. This is how he was seen by the crew. His looks were not so impressive. Small in stature, he talked quietly, with no gravitas, typical of commander. And we had some mooring problems. Hustle and bustle, you know. The crew was a little on edge, but then the newly appointed took a seat at the conning tower, commanded something quietly, and immediately placed the submarine to the pier, as close as it could be. Everyone appreciated that. In the sea, he neglected all the rules of underwater fighting, and even those of logic. He would attack from the German coast or from shallow marine waters, escaping to the place where it was easy to scupper the boat. He used to send the submarine to the most dangerous places, where no one expected them to appear. And his being illogic did have special logic, as out of 13 S-type submarines fighting in the Baltic, only one survived, with the unlucky number 13. At first, the captain of the enemy ship Siegfried got the upper hand over Marinesco. He detected the torpedoes and managed to dodge. Then Marinesco ordered to surface, and having taken place on the Captain Bridge, firmly pronounced, "Don't even think about getting away," adding in warm blood some four-letter words. And so, an artillery duel began, which resulted in scuppering the enemy boat. And Marinesco's submarine received a new order and went to the Finnish city of Turku, pursued by some hostile torpedo boats. Here we would like to quote a few lines from the book by Alexander Kron, a friend of Marinesco. Having stepped on the firm ground, the deadly tired submariners least of all wanted to talk about what they had seen or experienced. They wanted to take a steam bath, listen to their favorite music records. They wanted to laugh and chit-chat. It was the eve of 1945. The victorious ending of the war was already in the air. The stories about the New Year drinking party turned out to be controversial and unclear. However, the event threatened Marinesco with military tribunal. New captain was sent to the submarine, but the crew refused to go to the sea under his command. "Without our dad, without our captain, we will not put out to the sea." And the dad was just 32. Only the persistent request of the crew for Marinesco's return to the submarine saved him from great troubles. It was a true mutiny aboard, and to avert a scandal, the submarine was sent to the sea on the quiet. However, with a new expert aboard, an agent from the Soviet secret police, which was later known as KGB. And it was in that cruise, following the scandal, that they accomplished their greatest heroic deed. Foreign sources called the torpedoing of the cruise liner Wilhelm Gustloff the attack of the century. But it happened later. And then, in 1945, the S-13 submarine lay low for some time and continued searching the enemy. Once the danger passed, first Sergeant Anatoly Vinogradov, a joker and heart and soul of the crew, started singing a witty ditty. Hitler sailing on a vessel, vessels going with the flow. Have a look, my comrade Stalin, he's to go deep down below. Soon after that, on the 10th of February, General von Steuben, a military transport ship with a displacement of 14,600 tons, was destroyed. 3,500 passengers, not just peaceful refugees, were killed. The attack was so daring that the commanders of 6 escort destroyers were seriously confused and did not even try to pursue the submarine. Later, the commander of the escort was executed. On the 15th of February, the S-13 submarine returned to the base in Turku. After that brilliant campaign finished by the red carpet welcome, with 2 traditional roasted pigs, the notorious silence settled over the triumphal crew, gradually shifting into total oblivion. Marinesco was introduced to the title of the hero of the Soviet Union and the boat to the honored name of Guards. But this was not to happen. The crew members were decorated with various orders and medals. Marinesco himself was awarded with the Order of the Red Banner, but without solemn ceremony. His boat was given the title of the Red Banner submarine. We should note that this meant not only different insignia, but also different money. To tell the truth, Marinesco received an impressive cash prize and bought a luxury American car. But his, mildly speaking, hot-tempered and risky character played a bad trick on him. The war was over. A transit in surface position to Liepaja, with the American car fixed on the conning tower, made the relations with the authorities even worse. Marinesco offered his resignation, which was accepted. The sailor went ashore in the rank of lieutenant. In other words, he was demobilized, with a reduction both in rank and pension. A chain of humiliations followed then. The fact is, the basic principle of his life was what the Russian writer Alexander Kuprin used to name complete spiritual freedom and complete unselfishness. These traits were also typical for such Russian war heroes as Field Marshal Alexander Suvorov and Hussar Denis Davidov, a partisan of the campaign against Napoleon, and fictitious characters like Don Quixote and D'Artagnan. Their motto is be courageous and honest in your life. His poor eyesight prevented Marinesco from working in the merchant fleet. Well, he occupied the position of vice director at the Blood Transfusion Institute. The head of the institute was having his summer house built. He wanted to get rid of his deputy, who was a man of principle. With the permission of that very director, Alexander Marinesco distributed some written-off heating peat briquettes among the low-paid employees. The briquettes were just piled in the yard of the institute, unattended. The director called the Soviet financial police straight away. The criminal case was launched, and Marinesco was sentenced to 3 years in Siberian labor camp. On his way to Siberia, Alexander Marinesco raised a riot in the train, leading the sailors in the carriage against the criminals who took the food from the prisoners. Marinesco always remained true to his principles. In one of his letters from prison, he wrote to his wife, "My honey, you are writing to me that you have become gray-haired, and I want to write to you that I now need to shave almost every day, because my beard is gray to a single hair, as well as my temples. They say I look fine with this gray beard, but I do not believe them. When we are together again, my darling, probably everybody will be surprised and will admire us, being young, but so gray. Cheer up, we are sure to enjoy life, especially when we see each other again." On the 10th of October 1951, after almost 2 years in prison, Marinesco was released earlier. By the time, the director of the institute had been imprisoned as well for embezzlement of the Soviet property. Then he worked at the Maison plant. Unfortunately, people working with him for many years did not know who Marinesco was. Moreover, the whole country was unaware of Submariner #1. It was the time when the leaders of the country and high-rank officials felt free to wear 4 medal stars of the hero of the Soviet Union. Admiral Gorshkov, the commander of the Soviet Navy, had been awarded them twice in peacetime. And that very Gorshkov stated that while he was commander-in-chief, Marinesco would never be the hero. And his scattering of the Nazi ships was just a piece of luck.
And he even said that in 1945 his deed was of no importance, as the victory was inevitable. Following his logic, lives of those who assaulted Berlin 3 months later were worthless. What a terrible logic.
The pension he received was small, his earnings were limited, and to top it all off, he had to alimentate. The factory management did him a favor and let work overtime. One day, the inspection arrived unexpectedly. He went through one trial by another, can you imagine? And he was assessed in damages. When he came down with a fatal disease, the money was subtracted from his pension. 200 military officers, including 20 admirals and generals, 6 heroes of the Soviet Union, 45 commanders and political officers of the submarines, appealed to the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the USSR with a request for clemency to Marinesco. But the request was turned down. Marinesco wrote his friend Alexander Kron, "Now, when I'm 51, I'm starting to lose faith in the Soviet ideology." The last years of his life were hard. Marinesco knew that he had cancer, but he did not give up. The support of his friends helped him. One of them reported that Alexander was in a very bad hospital, as on paper he did not have enough combat experience for being treated in a military hospital. The wheels of bureaucracy did not allow him to receive proper treatment. So the veterans applied to the commander of the Leningrad naval base, Admiral Ivan Baikov. The admiral got furious. "Our hospital treats all and sundry, but there is no place for Marinesco." Immediately he ordered to hospitalize Marinesco, and moreover, he sent his car to bring him there. And now, the story told by his wife, Valentina. Alexander was very glad when doctors led him home for a few days. And at home, watching a documentary by Sergei Smirnov, a war writer, about the S-13 submarine heroic deeds, he was happy. He got excited, but his eyes stayed dry. When they were going back to hospital, he asked to drive along the embankments of the Neva River. Looking at the warships, he cried. He said, "I will never see them again." On the 25th of November, 1963, Alexander Marinesco died. He was only 50. Alexander Marinesco was buried at Bogoslovskaya Cemetery in Leningrad. Heinz Schein, a German author, one of the few survivors from the Wilhelm Gustloff, wrote, "Neither me, nor all the Germans, have any hard feelings about Alexander Marinesco. He fulfilled his duty and did it heroically and skillfully." In 1990, by the decree of the USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev, Alexander Marinesco was posthumously returned the title of the Hero of the Soviet Union. Our city has a street named after Marinesco, 2 statues of him, one near the Maison Plant and the other in Kronstadt. There is a school museum, memorial plaques in Odessa, Liepaja, Kaliningrad, and certainly the Museum of Submarine Forces of Russia, named after Alexander Marinesco, which we have just visited. It took another 25 years to bring together the name of Marinesco and his heroic life work. Life is short, glory is eternal. Who remembers today the names of his ill-wishers, whistleblowers, the names of the officials of the military, bureaucratic machine? Time itself made them forgotten. Double standards are shameful. But every man chooses his own way in life. You can live obediently bent, in an obsequious and servile way, or like Alexander Marinesco, with no lie and servility in life.